Hey everybody, this is Jondi Whitis, and I'm pleased to be here with Don and Gina today. I am especially pleased that we're having this conversation because if you're not already in this type of, let's call it life phase, you probably will be soon. And one of the things I'd like to share with you is there's a lot of funny things that happen. And I prefer to think of things as funny. It is my intake valve and my salvation, probably. So my mom and dad both have Alzheimer's. They're a very bonded pair. They've been together for a 65-year marriage. And so they're like frickin' frack all the time. But when I will sometimes say things to my dad, like this morning, I say, "Hey, buddy, I've arranged for a haircut for you." And he goes, "I don't think I need one." Gets all primpy like that. And I go, "You better trust me, buddy. You really could use a trim." And he goes, "But if you did that, the women would keep hitting on me and it would be gonna take that chance." Hairdresser week.
So, hello, this is Don
And this is Gina.
with Focus Healthy Family, and this is podcast number 143. And today we're talking with Jondi Whitis, EFT practitioner, EF trainer, educator, well known for her commitment to practical excellence in EFT. Master trainer Jondi Whitis specializes in gentle techniques, powerful results. She empowers her clients, students, and mentees with high standards of EFT, deep presence, and compassionate intuition. In Jondi's hands, EFT is a fully integrated with compassionate truth, deep experiential wisdom, and committed service. Popular for her warm style and profound presence she brings to every client, she knows her calling is to help others feel better fast, guiding clients to their own truth and helping them develop both courage and skill with these remarkable life processing tools. And so welcome, Jondi. Thank you for being here today and being part of this because like you said, we're all going through this. We just ended up with Gina's parents going through the same thing, her dad anyway. And it's a pleasure to have you here and talk about what's going on for you.
Well, thank you. I'm very pleased to contribute to this, and um, I just think it helps us all to know we're not alone, and that other people have found a similar problem, uh, and how they might have handled it might be something you hadn't thought about yet. So I consider it to be a benefit for all of us.
And I love your story. You got to find humor, especially in dementia, because, yeah, you just got to be able to laugh at the silliness and the unexpected things that they can do and say. And so appreciate you sharing your story.
Well, I was kind of curious, as you moved down from New York. I think you said about 3 years ago. Is that correct? What was the decision that made you decide that you had to come down here for that?
My brother insisting.
Oh,
He knew there was no way I would be coming back here to the city on my own. And so he had made the move earlier because he had extenuating circumstances that made a lot of sense for him. But I would come down a couple times a year, maybe 3 times a year for various visits, but I didn't want to live here. And he called one day and said, "You have to come now." That was my clue.
okay.
Had changed, and frankly, we'd been trying to talk them into leaving their fairly nice suburban, largish house and go to a retirement kind of community and have some fun and not have to do extreme maintenance and all that sort of stuff that they really didn't need to do. But we were met with resistance for 20 years. And
Okay.
when he called and said, "You got to come," we had made yet another family dinner meeting. And this time they said, okay. And I went, uh-oh, we're too late.
Wow.
Because for them to agree to it, kind of a rollover as opposed to a fight, I went, uh-oh. And sure enough, this is something I want to pass on, not just my story, but if you start seeing things and hearing things that are either out of character or surprising or curious, I urge you to ask yourself and others who know them, do you see that? Have you seen anything like that? Because my regret is that I hadn't paid more attention, because I didn't want to, by the way,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? About 5 years before, because I could have then given them, yes, a little bit of a fight to make that happen, but I could have given them a great community. They could have grown to know and be surrounded by and do activities and enjoy themselves. And by not admitting that and insisting upon some version of that, I think we moved them too late. So they never had the same social skills to meet new people. They no longer had the same, yes, they were ambulatory, but they didn't have the same coordination to be able to enjoy their tennis anymore, or their even, singing and piano playing and things like that that they liked. Big parts had started dropping off that I just wasn't aware of. And again, because I only came down so often, and my brother travels a great deal. So I think by the time we got together on this, we were like, oh my gosh, I wasn't really sure I was seeing that. I was thinking maybe I was a little bit like rude or not.
Yeah.
I was kind of being upset with them about something and felt bad about me. I didn't take it far enough to go, let me sit with this. Let me look at that more closely. Let me ask around. Let me find out if other people have any comments to share with me of people who know them, really well. So that would be a big takeaway I hope to pass on. Don't wait. Please stop and ask around. Don't just depend on your own recognizance.
That's great advice, and talking about moving them before it's too late, or to be able to grow that community. And that's such a big thing, that making that transition early enough that they can get comfortable, because the more confused people get with dementia, the harder change and moving to a new place is. So yes, I want to reiterate what you're saying, because it is so true.
And if I share, my mother-in-law, who I miss every day, almost made it to she almost made it to 100. She, in the last 3 years, in the last 5 years of her life, she had been taken by her eldest daughter to a couple of places. And what we found out was more about this idea of social connection, because immediately she turned into those girls. And suddenly at the cafeteria, with the cool girls and the cliques and the even though I couldn't actually find any, let's call it evidence for this,
Okay.
emotional construct that came out. And so it became impossible, just about, to create that kind of social connection that can make life meaningful.
Yeah.
It really, really made me sad that I wasn't able to see that until too late and weigh in on my family for that. And also, then she went right into COVID, and we couldn't see her and we couldn't explain it. And oh my gosh, talk about regret.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huge. So don't we?
Did you, so did your parents both have the same, were they in the same similar situation with the Alzheimer's, were one more than the other?
Similar in dementia onset. And I think because they're so bonded all the time, it could have been anything and they would have mirrored each other a lot. So I don't know how much of that was at work, but I have my suspicions. Um, I would say that by the time that their dementia started rolling and then we were into full-blown Alzheimer's, I'm referring back to the other point. If they had had more social connectivity
Hmm.
or stuff going on in their life, I think that would have extended and slowed the decay. Can I prove that? No, but I believe it.
No, I believe that true because we talked a lot about we want people to start talking early about this, or at least try to, but it's not easy to because nobody wants to talk about that.
Mhm.
But it is a fact of if you can start early and get them talking, then you've got a lot, you got a lot going there. But so then now, when did you decide then? Well, they were into getting into a nursing home, but did they go further than that? Did they go further than that in getting in?
Yeah, I guess that's another good point to share. Because my mother had done something which I thought was weird all my life, every now and then, apropos of nothing I knew about, she would start to cry and say, "Please just promise me you'll never put me in a home."
Oh,
Oh,
Where did you get that idea? And who do you know that was ever put in one? You know, I know you're a voracious reader, but I'm pretty sure you weren't reading only about, where did you get that idea? But there was a huge emotional construct there. So that when we started talking about this, I could see that flare up in her unspoken fear. And so what we did was my brother found a really nice place that was not owned by a corporation. And it was actually owned by a gerontologist and a businessman and another businessman who wanted to first build a place for their mother that they thought would be a good place. And the other guy went, "Mine too." And the other guy went, "Mine too." This troika. But he already, the first guy already had some investments in this kind of business. And so my brother found this place that was close to him and very nice. And it was being run, I want to say for sure, as a business, but it did not feel like a corporate business because
mm,
the impulse was family.
mm.
mhm.
And that's what we were looking for. And that's what they were used to. I don't know how many of you know this about me, but my mother and I are from the deep, deep South. Um, so that part is important. um when we got there, they had like fancy homes that had services available on campus, and then they had less fancy homes that services, and three kinds of those. And then they had independent living apartments, which were nice condos, but one level condos. And we put them in there first because we hoped that we weren't too late for some social connection and that they could feel emotionally much more pleased to be moving into a really nice condo with great services and lots of people around them. I don't think I was being honest that they were already probably needing more than that. Not like hugely needy, but some needy. So what happened was my brother and I carried on the fantasy, emotional independence for several years. I would say that was a lot of work. And it I don't want to say it was deception as much as it was emotional helpers for their fears. and their pride. So we did that for several years until it was coming clear to us that we were going to start to need to go into assisted, which was also on campus. So that was good. We had already planned this out, also had memory care there. And the week we were moving them, I'd already done the furniture again and the whole little grid. I knew I used to be a producer, so I'm producing this, right? Well, my mom fell again. She was having little falls everywhere, but she fell again. And this time she cracked her pelvis good.
Oh.
So my entire summer was in hospitals and in and out, and then rehab hospitals, and then finally coming back. And at that point, I have to say, and I'm hopeful that this is helpful information to people, not just my story, but when someone when someone falls and is in a lot of pain, my concerted opinion is that our minds will help save us by taking us somewhere else. And so if you already had some dementia and Alzheimer's and whatever, suddenly you're just not around. And that was very distressing to me, because suddenly I had a fairly sentient mom who had some interesting flights of fancy, but by and large was here. Suddenly I was looking at this person in a hospital bed who had become, I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but I was like, oh my gosh, it's a big trout, because it was just as slippery and awkward to try to manipulate a 100-pound trout. I mean, average person can't do it alone. And she just wasn't there. Oh my gosh, once again, too late. If I just moved her to the assisted earlier, and then of course we all play the game, what if, and if I'd only, right? If I'd only. Which of course isn't true, but let's call it, you reduce the odds, right? So I now had to make a new decision, because in this time, the guy had sold, his partners wanted to sell the place, and they sold the place to a big corporation. And it was to me, what was happening was an a la carte world with a revolving door labor force, and lots of things that I considered to be unkind to old people that were, I would say, corporate management issues, like your kitchen's not big enough, your food service staff is not robust enough, and you have a lot of old people waiting for a long time to eat maybe or maybe not good food. And when I say good, I mean, tasty, delectable things that you're paying for. And so I took this trout information and this corporate takeover type of information, and my brother and I said, we need to probably think about this, because if she has gotten to the point where my mother-in-law had, where she needed a hoist, get her out of bed, to get her in a chair, to get her to the bathroom, all this sort of stuff, it's a whole different world. So I encourage listeners to go, kindly assess where you are and what you need, and then ask somebody else for some oversight on that, to punch a few holes in your assumptions.
Yeah.
That would have doubled the cost, which would have been untenable, right? So we ended up going somewhere else, and long story short, I've moved them 3 times now, and I would not recommend that to anyone. But I would say that it's possible. If you can make a better informed decision once you know what you're dealing with. And so right now they're in an assisted at another place, which is incidentally owned by the same guy who again. However, I think it's time to go to memory care. And so this is full circle back to my story, where I hear my mom going, whatever you do, because it's a locked unit. Because you and it's a small place, which is probably comforting. And they're smaller rooms, which they probably don't need, because when I'm seeing right now, and I hope this is useful to people, my thought was big house to big condo to double room, assisted living. So you have your living room and whatever, you have your private space, you can have your friends come in and visit, whatever. But it also works the other way, people. You can hide out in there forever, and you can become lost in your own rooms because you don't have to interact. You don't have to do anything unless somebody comes in. And so I guess the theme of today is don't wait, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've seen that with a lot of people that I work with, but also with my dad. My mom had caregivers coming in the home for a while, and I kept pushing, you should have someone regular. You should have a full-time person. I don't need that. I don't need that. And then when she needed it more, he wasn't as comfortable with strangers coming in the house. And so establishing that ahead of time, and eventually moved him to memory care because he was taking off out of the house and
in his underwear, going to Wendy's.
crossing, yeah, the street, going other places. And I mean, he was aware that he wasn't able to do very much, and he would have moments of real clarity. And he even said to us, "Isn't there someplace I can go?" So yeah, he didn't want to be a burden on my mom. And we found what we thought was the nicest place, which they all have their challenges. And he survived there, June, just over 3 months, and went downhill kind of quickly, which I kind of anticipated. Um, he had many falls. He had Parkinson's disease with dementia, and he fell so much he just bounced back up. He didn't think it was a big deal. He luckily never broke anything, despite having a very bad back. But yeah, and it was tough. Um, I think it was tough for him because even though to outside people, it looked like he couldn't communicate. He understood things going on around him, and he was, I think, kind of annoyed with a lot of the confused little ladies. Um, yeah, and it was a small unit. Again, they were able to keep a better eye on him, but it was a locked unit, which he never tried to escape from.
No,
Um,
he didn't.
but he was there for safety. Uh,
Well, that was we just recently had someone we interviewed, and their the first thing they said was safety.
mhm.
Think about if they're safe where they are, because each different unit we've been in, because he's gone from one place to another a couple of times, and they all had the same problems with staffing and all that stuff. It's hard to get away from that.
But yeah, the bottom line is, are they safe? You know, are they safe? And after that, it's kind of icing on the cake because we can't prevent falls. We can't, it's not going to be as ideal as them being in their own home. And even that obviously has its challenges. But keeping that in mind that we can only do so much.
I agree. I would like to say just a different angle
Mhm.
to is no matter how kind, patient, whatever we want to think we are, we do get tired and burn out and frustrated, and to tell on myself, I have said for most of my life, I hate repetition. And joke was God went, oh, really, watch this, and gave me with Alzheimer's at the same time. That's not fun. But I will say, my brother sometimes says to me, hey, I just want to remind you, those people just look like your parents. They're not those people anymore. And, you could think that that's a harsh statement, but I didn't take it that way. I went, oh, right. They don't have any recollection of being anybody else. They're just being where they are right now. You are the problem, Jondi, and that you are remembering who they used to be and their capabilities and their personality. And so I have been blessed that they did not change their personality type, because they were always really nice, sweet people, and they still are. But the rest of it's kind of weird. And so somebody else listening might say, why are they suddenly? And I'll go, because they are. That's my medical explanation, because that's just where they are.
Yeah.
Now it's like my mom grew up and imposed on me an awful lot of Southern traces that you had to stay in. And now they're starting to come apart, like I saw her mother and her mother before. And as that happens, you lose the conditioning, it seems to me. So that now you might, instead of getting a very practiced social genteel kind of answer, now you'll go, because I don't want to get out. Not like she's being a mean person. It's just that she doesn't have any compunction anymore about being the person she was conditioned to be.
Okay. Yeah. I could talk about my mother with that, because my mother was this stout Catholic, wear it on her sleeve, kind of up to the point of that before she was dying, and some of the things she would say just would kind of throw that off some from what she was. But yeah, that's I was kind of curious as to, with because I know you're an EFT like myself, and how that transition between New York and coming here, and how that's kind of affected the whole process.
Well, I think it affected me a lot, and I didn't want to feel like I was a selfish, self-involved person, which is one of our imprints, I guess. But honestly, it affected me a lot. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to do this, and I was very close in an emotional way of the heart to my parents, but culturally, no, we live in different stratospheres. And so it was very hard to come into a very homogenous society, very full of that kind of neighbor that I wasn't used to. I mean, one of the reasons that I so loved living in New York and did so for decades, is because of the fact, my shorthand for this is because it's like living in the UN, and that is my desire. And so the subway and the sidewalks are the great equalizer of human experience and interaction with different kinds of humans. And here, any suburb probably in America, it's a bubble thing. I go from my home to my car bubble, and then I go to my office bubble, and then my car bubble, and back to my home bubble, and maybe I go to my church bubble and whatever, but it's a bubble, and it's not a known bubble. And I easily, as a human being, am convinced that, well, that's the way the world is. And the beauty of New York City was, I don't think so. Let's consider a larger canvas that humanity might be writ large upon, you know. And I appreciated that and had my theories, lots of theories about why that is. But that was really hard on me, Don, because it's like not enough that you're in service with your parents, like kind of swallowing it all and doing what you have to do and just trying to be dutiful and all that. But once you leave the facility, you're in the same kind of bucket everywhere you go. And I was like, whoa. And it was really hard. And
Sure.
to some extent, I think it still is, we're in a very difficult place in our country right now. And that's not made it easy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
I mean, you picked up your life and moved it to be there for your parents, and that is a big sacrifice to change where you're living and yeah, finding new friends and new places to go, new church, new everything, right? That uh,
Yeah, I think, I mean, to a certain extent, we were treated to several months of talking about the sandwich generation.
Mhm.
And whether it's economic or it's by desire or it's cultural, it doesn't really matter if you're sandwiched in between the people you're still taking care of and the people that now need you to take care of them and whatever. It can be a real pressure cooker. And self-care is a big thing that I try to work with, Don. I'm sure that you've seen, a lot of my practitioner mentoring stuff is around, yeah, and what about you? And so, of course, you have to turn those lessons in that mirror on yourself. And so I got a dog.
So you have someone else to take care of.
But, their unconditional love
Yeah.
and affection,
Mhm.
very easily given,
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
a type of self-soothing,
Mhm.
self-regulating thing. Um, but back to your conversation today, y'all, that idea that I have to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this. I have a phrase for that we use in tapping, which is productive distraction.
Okay.
I like
So
that.
I need to do this and this and this and this for me. Yeah, and I'll do that. But right now the floor needs cleaning, the fridge needs doing, the groceries need doing, this needs doing, and this needs doing. They need. And you certainly find that if you're still on the list yourself, that it's fallen way down. And it's a type of kidding ourselves. Do those things need doing? Uh-huh. Do they need doing right this second? Debatable. Do they need doing all the time or as much or to that degree? Debatable. But how are you going to take care of you? Because I still have a full-time practice I'm trying to run. And then am I busy doing laundry anymore? Nope. Shopping anymore? Nope. Cooking anymore? Nope. Not even much in the treat department? Nope. Running them to hairdressers and errands and stuff? Nope. And so all that time has come back to me. But I just want to caution other people like me that have you replace that timely task that you had with something for yourself?
Yeah.
Right? Can you see yourself as, there's an emotional construct of worthy, deserving, but then there's the capability, if you want to continue to serve, then you should probably be alive. You should probably be in pretty good health. You should probably be in a pretty good mood. You should probably have some patience afforded by, so what are you doing? And I can guarantee you that I'm guilty of everything that I have said to you until I become conscious, right? And then, Don, I don't know if you remember this, but I used to say it all the time that I used to have t-shirts that I would give out at Spring Energy event. And one of them had a little C and it said, consciousness is about waking up more often and for longer.
Mm.
And so I have to put on this t-shirt, metaphorically speaking, all the time going, excuse me, productive distraction. You're not actually awake. You're on autopilot.
Yeah.
Well, with all that you as you go through this with the dying person, you lose track of yourself,
Yes. Beautifully.
and it becomes so much that you don't even think about you. Like you said, we fall way down on the list.
If you're still on it,
Yeah, yeah. I almost didn't get on it, so
this list anymore.
yeah.
Yeah. And then, people say that, take care of yourself, but what does that really look like? You
Yeah.
know? Um,
Gina,
um,
I think that's it. What does that look like? Forces one to become consciously thinking to answer your question, or at least
mhm,
most of us, right?
mhm, mhm.
Let me offer the perfect example for what Gina is saying as my mom. I almost crying last week when I say, please, please, please tell me what would please you. What would you like to do? Where would you like to go? What would you like to eat? And then I went, oh, you fell into the trap. You asked too many questions at the same time. You're just being a bad thing. Okay, stop. A couple minutes later, I went, hey, if we could do anything you wanted this afternoon, what should we do? I'm trying to work with the prosody of my voice. I'm trying to work with the full neuroception of my ventral vagal in social mode. I'm trying to send all these signals because I know it's no longer a PFC matter that I'm dealing with. And she says, well, because she's gotten serious. Well, I guess whatever would help others. And I just like lose it inside. You know what? I admire that about you. And I have watched you do that your whole life. And so many people are so grateful that you've done that your whole life. And I just want to say now that, once you turned 90, I think it was time for you to be feeling really good about what you wanted to do now. Well, I don't know. And so to me, like, this is the object lesson. If you have been taught to be a helpmeet to others, when do you register? And if it's not by 90, you ain't on the list.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
that's wild. Yeah. Huh.
I would like to point out to those people who might have the same frustration. I I asked her a few questions and slowed down, and she said, well, I was never raised to think about.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that would be something I would pass on to everyone, is culturally conditioned to never be on the list.
Mhm.
Something you might be dealing with, and let it at least be an object lesson for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Jondi, this was really wonderful talking to you. I wanted to give you a moment just to talk a little bit about your practice because I think you have a really wonderful practice now. I'm not sure how that shifted, if that's still in process of shifting or if it is shifting, but just tell a little bit about what you do and
Thank you. I've been in tapping for over 20 years and all its adaptations. EFT would be my Venn diagram sweet spot, but there's many kinds of. I hate that Fred Gallo named it energy psychology. It just put off so many people, but it's a very large area of so many different helpful things. And I've been involved in this for over 20 years. So I'm really pleased to be part of what I would call new holistic, that begins with a W, health and well-being. And so I've seen a lot of clients, and my privilege, and I've served a lot of veterans and indigenous people, and I've tried to pass on so much to children um, for so long. But I want to get bigger than that now. So EFT for results is something I've been doing for a long time. And I will still teach people how to do this at a cursory level, basic self-application, all the way to being a very professional, certified, accredited sort of person in the world using these tools. And it's a privilege. But I would like to, and it is a but, I would like to get a bigger canvas, and I would like to talk about well-being. And I am trying to create a speaking career that allows me to bring together all these experiences I have had in all these different worlds and places. I've had a life, and I would like to speak on that. And how do we bring that together, the good and the bad, as fuel
Mhm.
for the journey ahead? And so I very much appreciate anyone who would like me to talk on those issues. I've been trying to create more of a speaker business now. And I'm also trying to turn my children's book. Do you remember this, Don?
Yeah, I actually have it here somewhere. It's in one of these little pockets.
On the camera, but Compassion in Action is the name for this book Deborah Miller and I wrote, which was really in response to school shootings that would not stop, because apparently we will not stand up and say no more. So we released it to help all those school children with that kind of experience they were going through, only to find out that that very month COVID happened. So I was not looking for a world pandemic to come on the line of that, but
Sure.
had its own effect. So I still wish to put that out there in the world. How do we help our children understand how they're made and how they can help themselves immediately, and how that will help them in the long run? I also have, from that, I've long been involved in emotional first aid and humanitarian outreach. And Don had been putting some stuff on my emotional first aid Facebook page. I've been posting videos with friends with long experience in that. And I've got 2 more that I got to get up there today to hopefully help, especially North Carolina. I went to school up in that general neck of the woods, and it means a lot to me up there. So I've been trying to do that. And then I thought, emotional first aid became allergic as a term, I think, to people during COVID. My apartment in New York City had the best view I'd ever had in all my decades there, but it was also over, I could see out my balcony a long line of semi trucks, all of which were morgues. And I had to look at that every day. And I said to myself, if the people are afraid of this idea emotionally, first aid, death, and these sorts of things, well, I've got to name it something else. And I decided to name it for what it does, because I think Americans peculiarly are really into what will it do for me. So I named it Rapid Regulation and Relief. That's what it will do for you. And so I've been running this RRR course about 2 or 3 times a year, and I'm going to continue to do that. I'll probably do it again in February. And I'm making a course on it because I feel like this is one of the things I can do in the world, is push out to people a way to see this. You don't have to come see me. You don't have to be in a group or anything else, even though it's recommended. This way you can run it in your own group. And I will, give you all these tools for what I would call practical, strategic interventions for whatever life throws at you.
Cool. Well, and they can find this at
JondiWhitis.com.
all right. Well, we will definitely put that up on the description, and really appreciate you being here today, Johnny. It's
Yes.
been wonderful to talk with you. You're always a light in the darkness of life. You're the light. So thank you for being here.
It's
You are
been
welcome, and thank you all for being the light too. I know you've been that light for families for a long time. And I appreciate you.
Thank you. And we'll share information about your children's book as well. And so people can learn more about you and find out. So thank you for being here. And thank you to all who are listening. It's our podcast for today. We'd love to hear back from you. Please reach out to us, send us a message. Please share this with other people. Share this podcast with anyone you know who might be interested. Reach out to us to find out more about what Don and I do. You can join me for my next Ask the OT. We're going to be doing those again starting in December 2nd at 7 p.m. and the 11th of December at noon Eastern Time, asking all things questions about caring for aging loved ones. You can also see Don's EFT tapping sessions online. He'll be doing monthly free tapping sessions again. And you can see links to all his resources and things that he has there. And you can learn more about us at focusedhealthyfamily.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Again, if you can either watch this on YouTube or listen anywhere you listen to podcasts. And tune in every Thursday. We air our podcasts. And remember, how you speak to your children and your loved ones today shapes their future and yours.